Most people say the best boxers in the world are the ones that is doing everything right. Now, I don't disagree with that, but what I would like to say is the best fighters of all time are the fighters that do very little wrong. Now, if you train boxing, you will know that there's so many different techniques, different punches, different footwork drills that you can be doing, which means there's so many different ways that you can be making mistakes. And on this video, I've kind of broke it down for you, giving you the most common mistakes in every part of your boxing game. I've made this video very easy for you to navigate with this bar at the bottom. So if there's a part of your boxing game that you think that you need to improve on, go to that area of the video and you'll be able to see the most common mistakes in that area. Now, the most important thing in boxing, which you should be working on all the time, is your feet, your footwork, your boxing stance. And these mistakes right here, I guarantee you're making some of them, and if you are, make sure you're improving them. As you're seeing there, the side-by-side comparison, and the after definitely looked better. And you might be thinking, well, how? What were you doing differently? What was it that I was doing? Well, it was not bringing me feet together. I see it all the time. People will be on the heavy bags, they'll throw that 1, 2, they'll step back, they'll bring their feet together, they'll dance on the spot, then they'll come back forward, then they'll move to the left and they'll cross the feet around like this, then they're here, and you're crossing like this. So that is bad. It's a common mistake. Like I said, I still sometimes do it, bringing the feet together. You know, it's time to have a rest. You'll switch off and you'll be on the spot. But if you continue to do that, you're going to get into bad habits. And if you think, if I've threw that 1, 2 and I've stepped back, I can't throw any punches from this position. And if someone hits me when I'm in this position, I'm going to fall over. So I need to keep my feet apart all the time. And one person that pops to mind when I'm thinking about this is Manny Pacquiao. If you've ever seen Manny Pacquiao, the Filipino legend, on his feet, he's always got his feet apart. He's moving in and out really fast. Bah, 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 bah. And that's one way you can get more speed in your punches. I've actually done a full video on how to get more speed in your punches. The link's below. You can check that out after you've watched this one. But yeah, when you're moving around the bag, if you're moving to your left, you always want to move your left foot first, keeping your feet apart. If you're moving to your right, move your right foot first, keeping your feet apart. You never want to cross your feet like this. Because like I said, it puts you in that position where you can't throw punches, and also if you get hit in that position, you might fall over and you're off balance. So I'm going to show you again the before and after comparison. So as you can see here, here's the before on the screen. You can see my feet's coming together. I'm crossing the feet when I'm moving left. I'm crossing the feet when I'm moving right. My punches are not coming off perfectly because my feet's not in the right position to throw the punches. Now moving on to the after. As you can see here, I've got my feet apart. I'm throwing them punches correctly. I've got fast feet, I've got fast hands. I'm moving left, left foot first. I'm moving right, right foot first. In the position all the time, no matter where I am around the bag, to throw them punches. Now I'm going to show you something that you can use to get out of this bad habit. Well, it is one of these things. This is a mini band, a mini resistance band. And I've got to take my gloves off to put it on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my feet in here. So I've put this around the tops of my legs like this. Now what this is doing, it's trying to pull my feet together. Obviously, like I said, I don't want my feet to come together. I want to keep my feet apart all the time. So with this pulling them together, I can feel it as soon as they come together because it's pulling them, and this gets loose. So this makes me keep my feet apart. Now, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to keep our feet apart when we're moving around the bag. And that right there is helping me a lot. Look, the footwork is perfect here. Working on the punches. Moving the left. I've got that good footwork. And if I try and step to my right with my left foot first, this gets loose and it kind of gets tangled. So it keeps your good form with your footwork when you're moving left, right, forward and backwards. So I've got to move, keeping them apart. And that's it there. Yeah, like I said, this is great for you to use if you are in the bad habits of bringing your feet together. Yeah, you can see it's super important that you improve on them footwork mistakes. Now let's move on to another part of your boxing game, which will only help you get better, is your shadow boxing. So what is this big mistake that I'm talking about? Well, it is people getting very complacent because they've got no one in front of them. They might be standing in front of a mirror and they think they've got their hands down and they're doing all this and they think they look like Roy Jones Jr. or Prince Nazim Hamed. You know, because they're in the mirror. If you're not bothered about getting out boxing, do that. put your hands down, pick your nose, pick your arse, do whatever you want to do. But guys, if you want to get better at boxing, you can't forget about your form, you can't forget about your good technique, just because there's no one standing in front of you, just because you haven't got a coach over your shoulder keeping an eye on you. Getting in good habits is key. Getting in good habits all the time is super important. And what I like to see is you've got to think about something and then do it. What I'm talking about is bringing your hands up to your face after every punch, keeping your chin down, exhaling with every punch, working on good form, good technique, working on good footwork. If you get in front of the mirror and you're like this, and yeah, there's no one in front of you, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is you're going to get into bad habits. You've got to practice perfect. You know, people say practice makes perfect. That's BS. It's perfect practice makes perfect. If you're practicing and with your hands down and trying to look like Roy Jones Jr., you know, you're going to end up a bad boxer. You really are. Like I said, if you're watching this, if you're doing boxing for fitness and that's all good and you're not bothered about getting better, that's fine, do you. But if you want to get better, practice good form, good technique, good breathing. Practice all that good stuff, and that's what will make you better. Moving on to the most important punch in boxing, the jab. Please don't be making any of these mistakes. If I throw a jab like that in a fight, there's a good chance I'll get knocked out, especially if I'm in with an opponent who's got experience, an opponent who's good and can punch hard, because I'm being lazy, and that's number one. Throwing a lazy jab is one of the worst habits that I see in boxing. Throwing it there, bringing it back down, throwing it there, bringing it back down. I loved it if I was in a ring with someone and they threw that jab, because I would just come straight over, wait for that jab, wham, big right hand, and it is good night. Like I just showed you there, number one is a lazy jab. Don't throw the lazy jab, because you will get caught and hurt. Just like I did in this video clip right here. As you can see, I'm throwing lazy punches, boom, I get whacked with that right hand over the top. And you know, that was my own fault. Don't let that happen to you. Okay, now let's move on to number two, which is telegraphing the punch. If you telegraph your punch, which means I can see it coming, you're wasting your time throwing it. You're not just wasting your time throwing it, but you're going to get countered and you're going to get battered as well. So don't be telegraphing your jab. Now that means something like this. This is a telegraph from the jab. It might not look like it, but it is. I telegraphed it. Now you might be thinking, what? I didn't see you were going to throw that. Watch again. Telegraph. Yeah, when you're in the ring with someone with experience, that split-second telegraph, you can see that coming. So I'm going to show you again. This time, we're going to do it in slow motion. I'm going to throw it fast, but we're going to edit it in slow motion. Yeah, you've seen that, right? I pulled it back before I threw it, and that is a common mistake there. Don't throw the punch back before you throw it. It needs to come straight out and straight back like this. Yeah, no telegraphing there. Let's move on to number three, which is fully extend it. Fully extend that jab. Now, the jab is the most important punch in boxing for a reason. It is to find the range. It is to, it can get you in the range to throw the punches and get you out of danger, but it's to find the range. Now, if you think about it, if I can't land this jab, I'm not going to be able to land this one, because the jab, obviously, it's closer. If I can't land the jab, how am I supposed to land a hook to the body? Or an uppercut? It's your rangefinder. Now use it properly and fully extend it. Get it all the way out. I'll see it all the time in the gyms in here in Los Angeles, where it'll be there and back. Nah, get it fully extended. Use your reach advantage as an advantage. Even if you're shorter than your opponent, still you want to fully extend it and getting your feet in there to land it. So it'll look like this. Woo! Seen that one, right? Yes, fully extend that jab. Let's move on to number four. Now this one is something that I see novices doing all the time, and it's flicking it. Boom, flicking it out there like this. You can get some speed when you do that, but it's a terrible jab. It doesn't just look terrible. If you're landing it, it's not going to do anything. It's going to have very little effects. And if you're throwing a jab at me and it's having no effect, I'll walk straight through your jab and beat you up with both of my hands. So make sure your jab is having some effect. Now, if you throw it straight and strong, like I've just showed you the last one, bah, rather than flicking out like this, you're going to have some good success with it. Now let's move on to the fifth and final one, which this one really makes you look silly when you're doing it. Don't drop your other hand. Keep your non-punching hand by your face at all times. One, one. This is what I say. Nah, don't be doing that. Keep this up. Keep this tight. If I throw a jab and I'm doing that, they can easily slip, bum, and whack me with that left hook. And I used to love it when I seen people who throw a jab like that, because I would really go after them on that right side of the body. So guys, don't do that. Okay, before I show you how Floyd Mayweather gets so much speed in his jab, let's have a little recap of what we've just went over there. You should never be throwing a lazy jab. You should never be telegraphing your jab. Always fully extended. Stop flicking it out. Don't flick it out. And the last one is keeping your non-punching hand up at all times. Okay, Floyd Mayweather, Money Mayweather, he's got one of the fastest jabs in the business. And how does he do it? What's the secret behind it? Well, he does throw the traditional jab, but also he throws this jab here. And what I'm doing right here is I'm having my jab out. My jab is off my face. It's halfway to the target, and it comes from my face all the way out and just back here. Now, if you think about this, it's got half the distance to travel from here to here. So if it's got half the distance to travel, it's going to get there twice as fast. So here it is one more time. To punch correctly, you need to have great balance. And on this next section, I'm going to talk all about having great balance when you're throwing them punches. A huge problem people have when they're boxing is resetting after they throw that power shot. You threw that cross, now you're off balance to throw any other punches. And guys, I've also done a video on how to keep your balance when you throw long combinations, so check out that video after you've watched this one. So for this problem right here, the reason why it's affecting your boxing is because you're over-committing with the right hand. If you throw that power punch and you over-commit with it, and it'll look something like this, now I'm kind of off balance to throw anything else. When you do throw that power shot, what you want to think about? You want to think about resetting. You're resetting and getting back on your jab. So I'm here like this, I've threw a power shot, I'm not over-committing like this, I'm going to throw it correctly like this, but then I've reset it and I'm straight back to me boxing. So again, I'm here, I've threw a combination with the power, reset, and I'm back to the boxing right there, getting back on my jab. When you are over-committing with that right hand, you're just leaving yourself wide open like this, square on. If you've already done that, it's easy. Bring the right hand back to your face, bring your left hand up, whoop, straight back in that boxing stance, and then from there, get straight back into your boxing. And one thing to think about, every punch doesn't have to be hard. So many people try and throw bombs with every single punch they do. If you're doing that, stop. Work on technique, work on speed. The power will come. The power is there and the power will come. And also, I've done a video on how to instantly punch harder. Check that video out as well. And that's going to give you some tips how to throw proper power punches without losing your balance. To punch really good, you need to make sure you're punching correct. Terrible punch. Oh, them are bad punches. So bad. And if you're punching like that, guess what, mate? You're doing it wrong. And if you didn't see the mistakes that I was doing there, you need to watch this full video. Yeah, I see so many people come to the gym, hitting the heavy bag like that, going for power and just messing up. And the thing that I'm doing wrong there is pushing my punches. We think, you know, if we push the punch, it's getting more power. The bag's going to swing more and I look like a big macho man by hitting it. Nah, mate, you look terrible. If you think about power all the time, you'll go up like this, then you'll plateau and you'll never be able to punch any harder and you'll get tired fast as well. But if you think about the technique, if you think about the snapping of the punches rather than pushing the punches, your power will increase, your speed will increase, and you will look like an overall better fighter. And right now, you'll be able to see the difference between the push and the punch. So right now you're seeing on the screen the pushing punches. If you look, I'm pushing through it. Yes, they look pretty fast still, and I am getting a little bit of power in it, but now we're going to compare this to the punching. Now when you compare this with the real punches, you'll see the snap in the punches, you see the speed, and you'll see the power is increased. The bag's moving even more. That's because I'm using good form and technique. So the way to get out of this habit is first, know that you're doing this. Get a phone, record yourself, watch yourself on the bag if you haven't got a coach who's correcting you, and see if you are pushing your punches rather than punching them. Once you've identified this mistake, great. Now you can go ahead and start working on it. And what we're going to do to work on it is start thinking about speed rather than power. If you're thinking about speed, throw on that punch, and really focus on bringing it back to your face fast. That's how you're going to get out of that habit. Now, if I think about that, watch. Then once you've thought about that, then you can start improving a little bit with the power by rotating your hips and transferring your weight behind the punch. And that's going to help improve the power, like this. Hands come straight back to the face. You can see how much the bag's swinging like that. I'll show you again. Now if you compare that with the first punches that I threw at the beginning of the video that you probably didn't notice that I was doing wrong, you'll see the big difference. So now moving on to this one simple tip that coaches don't teach you that will help improve your hand speed. This is think about the sound of the punch. If you think about the sound of the punch, you're going to punch faster. Right now you've got to think about it, then you've got to do it, then you've got to think about it, then you've got to do it until you get to the point of being able to do it without even thinking about it. And that's how you improve, by doing things without thinking about them. So first, let's think about the speed of the punch. I want to throw 3 punches. Ba, ba, ba. I want to match that speed. Ba, ba, ba. If I want to do 6 punches, ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. I can match the speed like that. The best punch you can hit someone with is the punch that they can't see coming. Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong here? No? Look good? Pretty fast, sharp. What about with my right hand? I'm going to do the same thing. Again, it looked pretty sharp because I did it fast, and you might not be able to tell, but right there I'm telegraphing me punches, which makes them a lot slower. And it's a very common mistake that I see, is people telegraphing their punches. And another big one that I see is this. That there, a big telegraph, that's not going to hit anyone. So we don't want to be throwing punches like this. So loading up your punches. Firstly, why do we do it? Why is this common? And that right there, what I was loading up my punches, pulling it back, pushing it forward. And the reason it's so common is because you think that you're going to get more power in the punch when you are pulling it back and throwing it forward. Pulling it back, pulling it forward. And you might actually get a little bit more power in the punch. You know, when I think about it, I've been on them punch ball machines at the fairground or at events. And what I do to get the most power in them is I kind of run up and blast it there. The big telegraph. And I do get a lot of power in it. So that's why we do telegraph punches, because we think that we can get more power into the punch. But like I said earlier on, if you do this, your punches will be slower. We don't want to punch slow, we want to punch fast. So, and another thing is, if you're in there with an opponent, especially someone with experience, if they see this or this, they're moving, they've blocked. Yeah, something as small as this, you're not going to land that punch. So when you are punching, it's got to be fast and unpredictable, like this. Like that right there, I didn't telegraph. Or a 1-2. I'm not telegraphing the punches there. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. But first, I'm going to tell you, how do you identify it to know that you're making these mistakes? Especially if you're working out on your own, it's hard to be able to see or tell if you're doing this. And if you are doing this, you probably don't realize it, because you don't realize it until you're in there with a coach with experience who can tell you you're telegraphing your punches. So this is what you've got to do. Get your cell phone with a camera, or get a camera, and I want you to put it on a tripod, or you can even stand it on a bench, and then from there video yourself, record yourself boxing on the heavy bag. And you can even put it in slow motion. If you put it in slow motion, you'll be able to see if your punches are being telegraphed or not. So do this, set it up, and then punch from there. Then when you are watching your video back, you'll be able to see if you are making that mistake or not. And if you are making that mistake, you've just identified you've got a problem with your boxing. So now you've identified that you're in this bad habit. How do you get out of it? Well, the first thing that you've got to do is think about it. Now you're aware of it, think about it when you're on a heavy bag. Think about the mistake that you're making, then improve it by doing it right. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to think about it, and then do it. Think about it, do it. Think about it and do it right every single time, until you get to the point of being able to do it without having to think about it. And I see this all the time on my channel. Think about it, do it until you get the point where you don't have to think about it and it comes automatically. And that's how you get into good habits, no matter what your bad habits are, is by thinking about the problem and then doing it correctly. So that's the big thing right there. Now, the other thing that you've got to do is think about speed. Every punch doesn't have to be hard like that. One, you're going to get tired and out of breath, but two, it's not realistic. Think about speed, and that will get you out of this habit. If you're thinking about your fast punches like that, now right there, I never loaded up any of them punches and I never telegraphed any of them punches because I'm thinking about good speed. And when you think about the good speed, you're not going to telegraph because you haven't got time to pull it back and then throw that punch. So right there, we're going to think about it and do it. We're going to think about speed, and this way your opponent or whoever's in front of you is never going to be able to see your punches coming. And that's what we want to do. We always want to be one step ahead and not letting this guy, even though it is a heavy bag, you know, getting into them good habits, not allowing anyone to know what you're going to do next. What you've got to do is move before and after every punch. If you're here on the heavy bag and you're moving your head, you're moving your hands before you punch, then after every punch, the person in front of you hasn't got a clue what you're going to do. Now watch this, I'm going to give you an example here. So I'm moving before, now I'm moving after, moving before and after. Rather than being a sitting duck here, move your head before and after every single punch. And I guarantee you, they'll not know what's coming and it will make you look like a much better fighter than you are right now. Now that there might feel awkward, but you've got to practice and get better at it and get better at it. I'm getting tired now because I've been talking for a long time. Now this bonus tip is not really a mistake, but what it is a trick that you can do to yourself to make you box better. And that trick is dress good, feel good. Now you might be thinking, dress good, look at the state of your trousers, Tony. But if I feel good in these trousers, guess what? When I train, I'm going to perform better. Now the better you feel in training, the better you're going to perform. And the way to feel better is by looking better, your appearance. Are you using good new gloves? Or are you using them stinking gloves from the gym? Are you using clean hand wraps? Are you dressing in gear that you like? There was an old guy who used to train at the gym. He used to always come in and he'd always put his hood up, because when he put his hood up, he'd come in and he'd bounce and he'd feel like a real fighter. Yeah, he wasn't a real fighter. He wasn't doing this to be a fighter, but it made him feel good. It gave him that confidence. So if you're doing boxing training, make sure you look good, because if you look good, you're going to feel good. And now we've spoken about all of the mistakes in boxing. Now click here and see all of the good things that you should be doing that'll help improve you. Click here and watch this video next.